Welcome to Real Talk, Indiana's premier talk show on real estate investing, where we talk each week about investing your money right here in Central Indiana. The tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts, brought to you by CIREIA, Central Indiana's oldest and largest real estate investing association. Hello there. My name is Vicki Perry, and I'm the Executive Director of CIREIA. We have over 600 members, all active in or learning how to be active in real estate here in the Indiana market. This radio show is available on FM 95.9, AM 950, podcast on YouTube, and www.cireia.org. Join us each week as we talk about how you can make your money more active with better returns and help the community that you live in with real estate done the right way. Now, on with the show.
And welcome to the program. My name is Ron Watson. I am the board president for CIREIA, Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. Welcome to CIREIA's weekly show where we talk about investing in real estate the right way. We're here to help you understand the opportunities available to you in real estate investing, whether you're just getting started or a seasoned investor. And last week we talked to Constantine Linos, president of CPL Investments, LLC. If you missed that episode, you can listen to it on the CIREIA channel on YouTube or tune into it on our website, www.cireia.org, on the calendar of events. And joining us again today is one of the most successful wholesaler investor coaches in Central Indiana, Mr. Brett Snodgrass with Simple Wholesaling. Welcome back, Brett.
Thanks, Ron. Super excited to be here.
And also joining us are Pete Barrow, President, and Isaac Barrow, Acquisitions Director of Parrot Real Estate Services. Welcome, Pete and Isaac.
Thanks for having us, Ron and Brett, and thanks to Vicki Perry, who's here too, for all that she does.
Well, we're excited to have you guys here. We want to know more about you and kind of learn what you guys are up to and what you're doing. So why don't you kind of get us started with a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I have an older son, Sam, Isaac's older brother, who came out here about 5 years ago and bought his first house. And I started spending a lot of time out here helping him work on it. And we both realized that there was an incredible amount of opportunity here. Beautiful old housing stock, very affordable. And it was a chance to do something we've been daydreaming about for many, many years. So we managed to find another foreclosure for pennies, and then another, and we just went rolling from there and building up a portfolio of our own. And at some point, a very smart man advised us as prices went up to sort of listen to the market and think about, instead of just buying everything for ourselves, doing some brokering, wholesaling, and we have transitioned into that, and that's where Isaac came into the business.
That's so cool. So where did you guys live and come from before you lived in Indianapolis?
We lived in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is a suburb just outside D.C. We lived there. Sam moved here in 2013. I moved here in the spring of 2016. And after some time spending up fixing up houses here and fixing up his house in Maryland, my dad moved here in 2017 in the summer. So Sam's lived here for about 5 years. I've lived here for about 2, and my dad has lived here for about a year.
That's so cool. So were you guys pretty much lived in Maryland your entire lives before you come to Indianapolis?
Well, do I sound like I grew up in Maryland?
Southern Maryland, maybe.
No, I grew up in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina. But,
okay.
But the boys were born in Maryland, and I've lived there for 35 years.
That's awesome.
It wasn't that awesome, or we wouldn't have moved out here.
Well, talk to us. I really want to dive into Indianapolis. So you chose Indianapolis for a reason. Your older son, Sam, moved out here first. You saw an opportunity. And then what did you guys see about Indianapolis? What are some of the particulars that you saw here as it was such a great market to invest in?
Well, it's actually funny because I remember in 2013, in the summer, I was working at a local family restaurant in Maryland, event where I eventually worked my way up to management. But at the time, I was just like waiting tables and stuff. And my brother, who does IT on the side. He wanted to move on to somewhere else, and he had like a map of places he wanted to see. He wanted to see Durham, North Carolina. He wanted to see Columbus, Ohio, Cincinnati. I think he also wanted to see Dallas. He had a friend who at the time lived in Texas, and he wanted to see Indianapolis. And he ended up, all things considered, liking Indianapolis the most. The price, people are pretty friendly here, and just sort of the way landlording goes here as opposed to other places. So it was really picked kind of randomly, but of course done with lots of homework. I mean, I remember he tells me a story all the time of how he was reading some message board and some guy just said, "Hey, you should check out Indianapolis sometime. It's a cool place to live for people who are self-employed and want to eventually get involved in real estate." So it was done pretty randomly, and I came out here with him the first time, and Dad spent probably he'd come here for 4 months and just fix up houses, and then I would come here and visit maybe once a year, and then in 2016 I decided to make the full-time jump pretty much. So
Sam just literally, he saved his pennies and he just drove around the country looking at cities, and he'd been to the West Coast, he'd been to New York and so forth. He made 2 or 3 big trips just driving around looking at cities, and this is all, when he'd come through this place, this is always what he liked. And then he came out here and he rented a little room in a place where the bed bugs were so bad he had to sleep on the floor, and he spent a month here just learning about the real estate.
Wow.
And then he got an opportunity to buy a beautiful little place. I came out here and looked at it, and that was the beginning of it. But
so how did they convince Dad to come out? I mean, you came out to help him out, and then you ended up staying?
There was no convincing. I mean, the first time I came out here, I hate to say I was like, wow, but
well, we hear that all the time, right?
Yeah.
I kind of was like, wow. I just, the people, I love beautiful old houses, and I love not having to spend money, and you can buy beautiful old houses for not much money. So what's not, and the people are incredibly approachable, and I don't want to speak badly of any place I used to live, but the people here are very approachable. Let's just put it that way. Very friendly. It's very easy to make friends here.
Well, I know my wife's family is from the D.C. area, and they had a lot of involvement in the real estate business there, and I can tell that I know from firsthand experience the prices are quite different there than they are here. So you can get a lot more bang for your buck in this area.
Well, not only the prices, but the pace at which things go. I've like I said, I've been daydreaming about this for years, and there are a couple of places that were still really underdeveloped, still pretty rough, and then they'd start to catch on, and I'd think, hey, maybe I could get in over there. But by the time I'd have that thought, a miserable little place would be $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it would just go so fast, and there's so much money, and I don't want to live there. So I'd much rather live here. So.
Well, we're super excited. You guys are really helping out Indianapolis, everything that you are doing, and I love the family business atmosphere. I really want to dive into that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the name of your company and what exactly you guys do. So you are Parrot Homebuyers, and where did you come up with that name, number one, and what do you guys do here in Indianapolis?
Well, let me talk about the name, and then Isaac can tell you about the business. Sam has parrots, and when he first moved out here, he didn't know anyone. He would but he had his own little IT business from home, and he would just sit on the couch with a bird on his shoulder.
Sounds like a really interesting kid.
They both are, but Sam, shows a little more. He would just sit on the couch with a bird on his shoulder, tapping away and making a living. And when it came time for a name for this business, that just popped up. And I remember someone telling me once, that doesn't make any sense. A business name is supposed to have something to do with the business. And I was like, like Apple Computer, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That is true. I was just thinking about a lot of the big industries. You say their name, and if you don't really know who they are, like what does Google mean?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I was just going to say
right.
that. Yeah.
Right. Well, Google's actually has something to do with large numbers, but nobody knows that.
Right.
Interesting. So that's how you came up with the name. You like parrots and the family. So dive into what you guys do. You guys mostly buy and hold in Indianapolis, wholesale. What is it? What is it?
Well, we're obviously a family-owned and operated business. We're BBB accredited. We wholesale, so we're always looking for deals, but we're also always looking for stuff to buy for ourselves. Obviously we send out these mailing campaigns, and a lot of the time what we find are wholesale deals, but sometimes we'll find something to buy for ourselves. We very recently actually sent out a mailing campaign, and a guy called us who had a house on the east side that was all hoarded up, and then we've spent about a month fixing it up. So we buy and hold and we wholesale. In terms of sort of the staff is myself, my dad, and Sam. My dad has been a carpenter with the better part of 35 years of experience, with varying levels of experience on certain kinds of jobs, remodels, additions, as well as just full rehabs. So that's sort of what he does. And we have some people who help us out in terms of the rehabs. We have a couple full-time guys, and with them come a lot of contacts. So
we have a couple minutes left in this segment, but I'm curious, do you each play then a different role in the company, specialize in different parts of the business?
Yes, Sam's role is to pace back and forth on the carpet literally all day long.
That's his title.
With the
pacer.
bird on the shoulder. Right?
Yeah, right. Pace back and forth, and then at 2 a.m. he'll have an idea and he'll call me, and then we'll try to make it happen. Isaac has always been obsessive about making lists and keeping track of things, so he runs the day-to-day management stuff. Plus, he turns out to be very good at dealing with sellers, dealing with buyers, negotiating contracts, and so forth. I am supposed to be going around being a people person, but I cannot let go of working with my hands. I just don't feel right if I don't do it. So plus our portfolio needs work, and we're working on this hoarder house right now, and I'm still almost every day doing at least some physical work. And
you enjoy that, though.
I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to not do it if I can help it. So we each have separate things which fit together very well, and everybody enjoys what they do, and it works great.
So I want to get into more of the details of what you guys are doing, what you're looking for, and kind of the scope of your business, the volume. We have several other segments coming up, but we'll ask for a tip of the week. I don't know if you were informed. We have a hot seat segment coming up, too. Brett and I are prepared thoroughly for that. So that's coming up in just a few minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Real Talk. I am Ron Watson, president of the board of directors, and today we're talking to Pete Barrow and Isaac Barrow with Parrot Real Estate and Brett Snodgrass with Simple Wholesaling.
Awesome. Well, I want to start off asking the first question on this segment. So you guys have been a family business for how long now?
Well, we've, I think Sam, my older son, started out here about 5 years ago. We bought our first rental property probably 4 years ago. I've been coming out here constantly working on stuff. Isaac entered the business full-time 2 years ago. So I guess you'd say we really were all together in it starting 2 years ago. And that's when we started the wholesaling business.
Okay. So I know a lot of our guests have been doing real estate for 10 years, 20 years, but you are relatively new. So I really want to talk to the new investors out there. What are some of the things that you've seen, the challenges that you've had as a new investor getting into this business? What are some of the positives and some of the negatives, and what new investors should be aware of?
Well, I think one thing that's crucial is just all the little things that go into, specifically with landlording. I think it's critical just to be realistic about what you're getting into. It's not, landlording isn't really a way to get rich quick per se, and we like it a lot. Our rentals are performing. We have good tenants, not a lot of vacancy, but it's taken a lot of work from obviously my dad, from all of our contractors, myself, my brother. It's taken a lot of time, work, persistence to get there, and we still have work to do. But it's just important to be realistic what you're getting into, what you're going to get out of a rental. And also what it's going to cost you. It's important to be realistic about just the market rent, the problems you run into down the line, in terms of maintenance, in terms of tenants, in terms of, where your rental is located. The proximity that you have to your rental is important. And that's not all. You need to monitor security, make sure, your rental's not getting broken into every week, screen your tenants, your employees, your contractors. And I think it's also crucial to have a knowledge of just the law and what you're allowed to do. So really, I think it's just important to be aware and just be realistic about what you're getting into and have reasonable expectations.
Yeah, the idea that this is wonderful passive income and you can just sit back and collect the checks. 2 nights ago, thought we'd sit down and watch a playoff game, and Isaac looked at his phone. He said, "You can't make this stuff up. We got a phone call. Someone was locked out." Okay, so that's not bad. We missed a little basketball. We drove and let her in. We came and sat back down to watch the basketball game, and he got another call. Woman had lost her keys and wanted all her locks changed right then. So
it was really good timing then for you guys.
It was.
So I'm curious, you talked about some of the things you got to think about and prepare for. Are you focusing on a certain segment, like a certain size of property and a certain area of the city? I mean, what are you guys looking for?
Well, right now, a lot of our portfolio is in Mapleton Fall Creek. We have a lot of duplexes, 3-bedroom duplexes built in the pretty old builds for the most part. I think our newest build is
1925.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, we're trying to diversify a little bit. We've been buying more singles lately, but our portfolio started with mostly north side duplexes. And we are, I will say, in terms of buy and hold, we are pretty picky in terms of what we're gonna pick out. But we in terms of what we focus on, north side, Mapleton Fall Creek, east side, we'll buy a lot of different stuff. But right now, most of our stuff is duplexes.
So, based on your comment about the phone calls, I'm guessing that you're managing your own properties?
Yes. We are.
Once Isaac took over leasing and management for us, we've had no more problems. There's nothing quite like having your son pick your tenants, because they're just going to be very, very picky and very good at it. Mm-hmm. And he's been terrific. All our problems have ceased.
Definitely.
Once he took over that.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of different things. You're buying properties to hold, managing your own properties, so you're getting tenant calls. But I actually learned about your company from wholesaling, and you guys do a lot of wholesaling as well. Why do you guys do both? I know that a lot of investors kind of pick one niche and they go all in, but you seem to do a couple of different things. So what does wholesaling do for you? Why do you do both?
Well, we started out intending just to buy and hold, to the limits of what we could manage to finance and afford. But we had a guy who was mentoring us. Should I mention people's names on the air or maybe not?
Yeah, if you really like them, let's mention their names.
I really like him. Yeah, Steve Lehman of FS Properties has just spent a ton of time, especially when Sam first started doing this. And at some point, we started finding that it was getting very hard to acquire Mapleton Fall Creek duplexes anymore. In fact, it was getting harder to acquire anything, and at the prices we wanted to pay. And Steve said, "Well, you need to listen to what the market's telling you to do. And what the market's telling you to do is not just buy everything you see, but broker some of it." So we began moving some stuff as wholesale deals, and that just seemed to go really well. I don't mean by accident. I mean through a lot of hard work. It seemed to go really well. So we're still acquiring stuff, but maybe out of every 100 houses we look at, we'll keep one. This little hoarder house we just got in Emerson Heights, it was stacked with trash 6 feet high, but you could tell it was a beautiful little
underneath all that. Yeah,
it was a beautiful little house.
Yeah.
And it's I just carried the last load to the dump yesterday, and it's going to be a great little place. So that's what we like.
One thing that I think is really interesting about what you guys have done, and I know a lot of new investors are probably wondering, so you came in here from a different market, and you kind of plugged yourself in. What type of things did you need to do to kind of get an understanding of the market and the people and who you needed to work with? I mean, what process did you go through there?
Well, I think we all just spent a lot of time driving around and looking at every single neighborhood. I mean, my brother, me and my dad are not near the level my brother is in terms of just, I mean, we're pretty knowledgeable, but my brother, you could just tell him an address and he'll know not only how good the block is, he'll know the color of the house. So one thing we've all done just to get knowledgeable is I think we've plugged ourselves in with a lot of smart people. We're always talking to people who have been around for, several different, downturns and spikes. So we talk to them a lot. But we also have spent a lot of time just driving around, observing the neighborhoods. Wholesaling has helped me a lot with that because I'm always looking at houses and being able to observe, all these different areas, not only in areas that we would buy, but areas that we wouldn't as well. And yeah, we've just spent a lot of time driving around and looking, and that has just given us all something of an encyclopedic knowledge.
And I don't want to be a flatterer, but this organization obviously is a big help to people who want to do this, just as a way to meet other people who are in the business.
And you're talking about CIREIA?
Yeah.
And networking, and kind of dive into that a little bit. How has CIREIA helped you, meeting people, learning, education, and all that?
Just meeting people mostly. There's always a lot of time before and after the meets where people just hang around and talk. And I never leave one of those meets without 10 new business cards. So that's been incredibly helpful. But I also have a tendency to just, I like to go sit in the deli and listen to what people are talking about. And more than once it's happened that I've heard the word house come up, and then I go over and say, well, I don't mean to be listening in, but here's my card. And,
So do you think stalking is a good strategy then?
I do very much, yeah, but only for me.
Okay,
I guess
and
you're not a threatening looking
I
guy,
think I'm kind of peaceable with it. And,
That's totally true because he went to I remember I can think of two stories. One, about 6 months ago, he went to a restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant actually owned a house about a half mile away, and my dad had been dropping cards there for 3 months. And eventually he picked one up and he called us, and we bought it and we wholesaled it, and we did pretty well on it. And then we had another house where Dad went to Goose on 25th and Delaware, and he just met this landlord guy who was sort of like, I guess you could put him in the frustrated, tired landlord category.
I heard him talking on the phone about how sick he was of being a landlord.
And we bought his house too, and we bought it and we put it on the MLS. So neither one of those we had to spend money on postage or anything like that. So, if you do even one of those deals, you're doing pretty well. So.
Well, I mean, I was joking, but it's really interesting what you're talking about because it does speak to the idea of kind of getting out there in the market, meeting people, talking to people, paying attention to what's going on around you. And I'm okay with the shameless plug for CIREIA because I think that's a good way to meet people too and talk to, people in the market and what they're doing and get an idea. But I think it's also good that, if you're new and you haven't done this before, there are ways to do it, right? I mean, it just requires the effort, the energy, the boots on the ground, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think just if you're willing to put yourself out there a little bit and just go talk to people. And it seems to work for me because I like to talk to people. And often I'll find myself just getting in a conversation with someone, and after about an hour it occurs to me, hey, I should give this guy a card. So it's obvious I'm not just trying to push it on him.
Right.
I'm enjoying him, and then maybe something comes of it, and maybe it doesn't.
Well, I want to dig into more details around that and what you guys are working on now, and some of the other things that Brett and I are prepared for when we get to the hot seat segment. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back
this hot
after
seat
this.
Thing is making me nervous.
We'll bring water in. It'll be great. We'll catch you right after this. And welcome back to Real Talk. I am Ron Watson, president of the board of directors, and today we're speaking with Pete Barrow and Isaac Barrow with Parrot Real Estate and Brett Snodgrass with Simple Wholesaling. I know we wanted to dig into some more questions around wholesaling, Brett, so I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, so we've been talking about wholesaling a lot. I know this is a strategy that Parrot homebuyers use a lot. So talk to us about wholesaling. And those who are listening right now that don't even know what wholesaling is, they have no idea what we're even talking about. Can you explain in layman's terms what wholesaling is?
Well, essentially, wholesaling is you seeing houses, marketing your services to potential home sellers, getting a contract with a home seller, and when you get it under contract, you market that house to your potential buyers. You get an agreed upon price with a potential buyer, and then you assign your contract for a fee to whichever buyer you end up going with, and then at the closing, once everything's closed out, you get your fee from the title company.
So you talked about assigning contracts. If you're listening right now and you Google what is assigning contracts, you'll get a lot of information thrown back at you. So let's just kind of dive into assigning contracts. Do you have to have money to assign contracts? And kind of what are the logistics that you need to be aware of if you're going to use that strategy?
No, you don't need to. You don't need to put any money in to just get a contract assigned. At that point, the buyer is obviously responsible for funding the deal to close. And in terms of logistics, I mean, you just need to be aware of, who your assignor and who your assignee is, and get it signed, and obviously send it on to the title company and communicate all the details of the closing with whoever your buyer is, as well as your seller.
Well, that doesn't mean you don't need any money to be in this business, though, because a big part of some of these deals come, as we said, from walking around and keeping your ears open, but more of them come from mailings, and we have a billboard, and we spend a ton of money on stuff like that. So
yeah,
if you don't do that, I'm not sure how big you can get in this business ever.
Right. So I just want to kind of describe, since I do wholesaling as well, our company is Simple Wholesaling. There's a couple of different ways to wholesale properties. One of the most common ways is assigning contracts, basically where you search for the deal, you get that property under contract, and then you sell the contract to another buyer for a fee. And that's what a lot of wholesalers do. And then there's the other way, which we do in our company, which takes a lot more money and a lot more resources, is to actually buy the deal and then resell the deal to an investor later. I am not against assigning contracts. I've done that. I've bought a lot of assignments, but we choose to buy the houses and to resell them. But I want to talk to the listeners out there that are interested in wholesaling, and what are the biggest challenges that you have faced. A lot of times people will go to a CIREIA meeting, they'll hear a speaker talk about wholesaling, and he makes it sound super easy. So what would you guys say to that? And what are some of the challenges that you have faced with wholesaling? But then what are the positives as well that you see as this is a really great revenue stream in any real estate business?
Well, I don't think Isaac sees it as a challenge, but I do. I think the hardest part of the business is what he does, which is he has to go into a place and look at it and assess the condition and the location, and think about the buyers we know. We have some institutional buyers who are always looking, and we have some individuals, but he has to have all this stuff at his fingertips mentally, and be able to look at this place and come up with a realistic idea of what some guy's going to pay for it, and be sure enough about that to pull out a contract on the spot sometimes and offer to sign it. So that, I think, is going to be the hardest part for a lot of people in this business. Now, if you're already in real estate, or if you're a builder, or if you've just lived here all your life and you know all the neighborhoods, you'd have a leg up, I suppose. But
well, I will say it's very challenging. I'll start with the challenges. I mean, the challenges can be just assessing that, if you have great familiarity even with your buyers or with the market or with whatever you're seeing, then it's obviously a little bit easier, but it's still very challenging to assess that, especially, as he mentioned, on the spot. Other challenges would include just, sometimes there are stretches where it's a little harder to find stuff to buy, I'm sure, as you know. And, sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. Obviously, marketing costs are not cheap. You have to, a lot of the time where people find wholesale deals is from, mailing campaigns. They'll send out postcards or letters, and you can get discounts on that from whatever mailing company you use, but it's still obviously not free. In terms of the benefits, I mean, after you do it for a little while and you get some experience, if you have a good enough buyer's list, it can get to a point where you can sort of diversify and you don't have to sell the same thing over and over and over again. So, yeah, I mean, after a while, if you have a familiarity with the market, familiarity with the area, familiarity with costs, and as well as buyers, then at that point, it will be a little bit, I won't say easy, but it'll be less challenging.
Well, stuff starts to happen by itself, and especially if you have a catchy logo and a picture of a bird, you wouldn't believe how many people. If I'll stand up to say something at a meetup, I'll see 3 or 4 guys, whisper to their friend, "That's that guy with that parrot." It's like, I don't understand it, but there's a parrot. So you start to, once you start to get known a little bit, and I'm sure you have this much more than we do, stuff just happens by itself.
So I'm going to take a little bit a step back in terms of wholesaling, because I know you guys are very well versed in this in the room here, but I'm not. So if you're listening at home and you're thinking, well, okay, you got somebody that's going to sell the contract for their house, but why would they want to do that? Why won't they just sell it on their own? Can you talk a little bit about what those kind of opportunities are and what you're looking for? What's a good wholesaling opportunity? Those kinds of issues.
I'm sorry. Do you just mean why assign instead of just selling outright?
Yeah, I mean, if I own a house, why don't I just sell it myself? Why would I want somebody like that?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? What? Because I know there are opportunities and there are reasons that people want that to happen.
Why don't they just get a broker?
Well, take this last house we just bought. It was stacked up almost to the ceiling with food and old clothes and boxes and empty Arizona iced tea jugs.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so far I'm all in.
I like that.
Yeah, a certain kind of homeowner would love it, but
I don't have any problems yet.
But yeah, most your buyer pool is pretty limited, and I don't think anyone else is clamoring to buy that house. Mm-hmm. So we got it for a very good price because we don't mind going in there with a shovel. I mean, there's some stuff that I won't even ask my crew to do because it's so nasty. I'll do it myself, and that was one of those places. So there are situations like that where the house is just not really sellable on the market, and or the guy just wants to sell the house and move back to Mississippi next week. He does not want to wait around. He doesn't want to wait and see if some homeowner can get financing, and then that falls through, and then he's got to start the process all over. It's the wholesalers make it very simple. You come, you look at the house, you offer a contract, and in a couple of weeks they've got cash.
Yeah, I think that everybody in this room probably has been a motivated seller of something in their life at one time. It doesn't have to be a house. It could be a lawnmower or a car or some whatever garage sale stuff. We've all been motivated to sell something. So we're just looking for that motivated seller that, like Pete said, that wants to sell it fast for cash. I was actually giving a presentation at a broker's meeting the other day, and I was talking about that, and one of the questions was, well, why don't they just list the house? And I say, a lot of times we can offer something that you guys cannot. We can offer them a 7-day closing for cash, no inspections. You don't have to clean out the 6 feet of garbage in the house. And that's what we can offer. Can you guys offer that? And the answer is probably not.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a whole segment of homeowners out there that fall into those kind of categories that, as a novice investor, I wasn't really aware of. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was kind of getting at. I think that's really interesting that they're out there. And do you guys all see that, are there plenty of those opportunities? I know there's a lot of people wholesaling in this area. Do you still see that there's plenty of options out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say so far in our wholesaling careers, we've wholesaled a little over 100 houses. And, obviously some months are better than others, but that's our total so far. And we didn't really start doing it full time until pretty much the spring of 2017. So we've we've been fortunate to have those opportunities continue to come our way. And sometimes what's happened is we'll buy houses from somebody. It's happened maybe half a dozen times. Is we'll buy a house from somebody, and then they'll close with us, and then they'll call us 3 months, 6 months later and say, hey, I got another house down the street, or my buddy or my cousin or something like that. So sometimes what happens is repeat business. We've had a couple people where we've bought 4 or 5 houses from them. So the opportunities do keep coming, and if you do good business, they'll continue to come.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you guys do business. I know we've done business a couple of times, and that's always been a good experience. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I want to get into more of this in a little bit more detail. We do have I know Pete's been excited to learn the hot seats coming up, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more detail. We just have a little...
I may have to go down the hall.
Pete's going to leave the building when that time comes up, because Brett and I are actually getting pretty good at that. And
That's
we
right.
do make people sweat, but I think it'll be fun. We just want to get our listeners, make sure they get the questions answered that they're really dying to get answered. So we're going to get to that, and we have a few more
Well, we don't want
things.
anybody die.
No one will be harmed in the process, I can promise you. But we'll be right back after this quick break. And welcome back to Real Talk. I am Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA. And today we're speaking with Pete Barrow and Isaac Barrow with Parrot Real Estate, and also Brett Snodgrass with Simple Wholesaling. And now the segment everyone's quaking in their boots about, it's the hot seat segment. And Brett, I think we got a couple of questions that we're going to hit him with. So why don't you go ahead and get started with that?
All right. I know you guys are super sweaty over there. I see it in your shirt soaking through for this hot seat. But a lot of our listeners were hearing they want to know about money. Real estate always seems to soak up a lot of money. How do you get the money? Do you borrow it? Private, hard money, conventional? You guys have a philosophy that you don't borrow a lot of hard money. Why?
Well, because I don't think we can afford it. We have a little seed money to start with from the sale of our house back in D.C. And plus, I'm lucky my sons have, since they were old enough to work, they've wanted to work and hang on to their money. So we tend to search forever, find really good deals, buy them cash so we get an even better deal. I put a lot of my own personal sweat equity into these places, and we have our own crew, so our rehab costs we keep down. Then we refinance. So we are borrowing money, but it's conventional. I don't see how our deals work unless we're putting a lot of our own labor into it and keeping financing costs low.
And when I mention hard money, if you guys don't understand what that is, there's a lot of hard money investors or private investors, and typical rates for hard money is
12%,
15%,
14%.
I don't even know, yeah.
15% interest.
Yeah, you might as well have a credit card.
Yeah, which is a huge pain point. I know for me, I do have some private investors that invest into our company. And that's always one of our biggest expenses, So if we could find something different, instead of paying 15 and pay 8, we would save thousands of dollars.
Well, one of the deal that sort of made our portfolio, one of my old carpentry customers, a woman I'd worked for almost 30 years, just offered out of the blue to invest money with us a couple of years ago. And as it turned out, they didn't just lend us the money. They bought the houses, but we managed them and we shared the profit, and we've bought those houses back from them over the years as we find financing. So that's how we got a bunch of duplexes in Mapleton Fall Creek. So there's nothing wrong with borrowing money, but we didn't pay them 14%, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So you think it's a good approach for somebody that's getting started in real estate investing and they don't have a lot of money to try to do it your way, to kind of self-finance and build up some reserves and kind of take that approach?
I really think any business you're going to go in, you got to start out by, unless you really have a genius idea and can get financing, I think you've got to start out just saving some money. You've got to get some money somewhere, or you've got to have an aunt who wants to invest with you or something. Mm-hmm. If you invented the iPhone, you can get investors, but there's nothing really original about buying some rental properties, is there?
And you talked about sweat equity.
Right.
Talk about that, because I know a lot of real estate investors think that they have to hire a general contractor to do all the work, plus they're paying a hard money loan, and
Yeah.
you guys are doing it a little bit different.
Well, we're lucky because we've got these three different skill sets, and I can do anything with a house. So I do a lot of that work myself, for which I really don't get paid, which is fine. But I'm able to pick really good. We have a terrific crew of guys.
Helps you keep an eye on the house too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you're there every day, so you're seeing the neighborhood, and the neighbors know you, and they want to look out for you, and they see you're fixing it up, and they like that. So it's just good relations all around. Yeah, if you have to pay contractor prices with borrowed hard money and buy on the market, I don't know how you make a living. You really got to be clever. You really got to be a little cleverer than that. If it were that easy, everyone would do it.
Especially just starting out.
Yeah.
You know, once you build up a great system, a great process, great
Yeah.
team, maybe then. But starting out, you got to
Yeah.
do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's how I started. I was cleaning out houses and scooping up who knows what.
Really.
I thought you were going to say, but I didn't know what it was. I'm
I
glad
did.
you
I
didn't.
can't say that.
All right. then.
And you're sort of doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
In different format. All right, I got a question for you. So this is not necessarily about you guys specifically, but there's a reputation in the real estate investment business that people are out to just take advantage of people and screw people and just make money as fast as they can. Can you talk a little bit about what your moral philosophy is in terms of your business, for example?
Well, we try to just make sure that at all levels of our business, that's within ourselves, between the three of us as well as our crew, everything is just communicated, and everybody. We also kind of have a rule between the three of us. We all kind of have to be on the same page. None of us really takes any steps without us all not only knowing about it, but also kind of agreeing on what the next step is. But most importantly, in terms of, people who aren't in business with us, but maybe are doing business with us, you're not going to save any money not being ethical. It's not going to really help you, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is if you do a deal with somebody where they buy a house from you and you don't tell them that there's fire damage, well, they're never going to buy a house from you again. So it doesn't really save you any money. Not to mention you're really not going to be able to sleep at night. So I think honestly, it's a matter of ethics, but it's also just a matter of good business. I mean, you're not going to do business with people you think aren't doing it right. And there are some people that have come across our path over the years, and we've decided not to do business with, and we wouldn't want to be those people to anybody else. So we just try to communicate everything honestly, and sometimes that's not pleasant. But we try to just be as honest as possible, and it just makes things easier for everybody.
And Indianapolis is one of the nice things about it. It is a little bit like a small town with 2 million people, and people everyone knows everyone, and everyone kind of knows who you can trust and who you can't trust. And there's like Isaac said, we know which side we want to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important. I mean, at CIREIA, we do spend a fair amount of our time and focus on we developed a code of ethics, for example. We want good business partnerships, and we want the community to feel like that we're trying to do things in a professional way and do things the right way. So I think that's really critical. I did have a question for you regarding what your plans are coming up, like in the future of 3 to 5 years. Are you going to try to focus more on wholesaling, landlording, some mix, or just kind of see what the opportunities are that are presented to you, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I would say that our plan is to, for now, to keep doing what we're doing, keep fixing up our rentals, keep wholesaling, but we will just listen to whatever the market's telling us. If the market tells us that we need to buy everything we can, and maybe take a little less on the wholesaling, then we'll do that. If the market tells us to wholesale as much as possible and maybe hold on the buying, which is what we've been doing, then we'll keep doing that.
What's the market telling you right now?
The market's telling us right now probably to hold on the buying and wholesale as much as possible.
Okay.
So that's obviously what we've been doing. So we'll continue to adjust based on obviously all those external factors.
But that's because the numbers don't work for us because we're extremely picky. The numbers here still probably work for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
A lot of people.
Right.
They're a whole lot better than the money you can make elsewhere. So
Definitely. Couple other hot seat questions. So these are just some random questions that we have picked up on. So going back to your name, Parrot Homebuyers, I want to talk to new investors out there. They're interested. They need to come up with some sort of name. Is that important? What they name their company? And why?
I think the name is huge. Like I said, we get a lot of people who, when they meet me, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy with the parrot." So they knew the parrot long before they knew any of us.
True.
Yeah, I think coming up with something like that is a terrific advantage if you can do it.
I think, yeah.
There's a limited number of parrots, though.
That's true, yeah.
I think that's still true. I mean, I think still people know our brand before they necessarily know any of us.
You could just pick
personally.
any animal and
Yeah,
name
yeah.
it Homebuyers,
Well,
right?
we've already got squids too. One of Sam's IT businesses is Squidix.
Gotcha.
So you can't touch squids or penguins.
parrots.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
parrots. Yeah.
All right, Brett, they're blowing my mind with this
Yeah.
now. Okay, I don't think we could break them on the hot seat.
No.
They're still standing.
No,
and,
we've been tested before.
and
Yeah.
well, we appreciate it. We really liked having you guys here today. I didn't want to wrap up this program without giving you an opportunity to share a tip of the week with the listeners, and then also, how can people contact you?
Well, our tip of the week goes back to something I mentioned earlier. It's just, I think being realistic is the most important thing, which encompasses a lot of things. I think being realistic about your rental and your rental portfolio is very important. And I think that goes along with just not being emotionally attached or stuck in your ways. I think is very important because we've considered everything, and we are always tweaking sort of our formula based on what the market tells us and how things are performing. So being realistic and sometimes what we've noticed through just being realistic about everything is sometimes the best deals are the ones you just end up passing on.
Yeah, if you're at a workshop and they've got you standing up on the chair and cheering you, that's great to be excited, but you need to calm down and think about what this business is really like and what you can really do.
So how can they reach you if somebody wants to reach out to you guys?
Well, you can call us anytime at 317-204-2900. You can reach any of our websites at parrothomebuyers.com, parrotwholesaling.com, or parrotpropertymanagement.com, and you can email us at parrothomebuyers.com.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Brett, do you want to provide contact information real quickly as well?
Sure, Ron. Absolutely. If you want to contact us, we are Simple Wholesaling. You can go straight to our website at simplewholesaling.com. You can find all of our properties on there. We provide a lot of the discounted properties of Indianapolis, and you can also sign up for our buyers list right on our website. So look for us on our website.
Sounds good. And this week at CIREIA, we have our monthly Southsiders Investment Group, Real Estate Business Management Group, and the new monthly member orientation. All three of these learning events are included in the CIREIA membership. For more about our group and events we're involved with, go to www.cireia.org. I wanted to thank Pete, Isaac, and Brett, and thank you all for listening. We'll speak to you again next week.